Hey there, everybody. Diane Gilson here with you for another one of our Better Numbers, Better Business presentations. And I'm really excited. We've got Charley, Howe, and Phong Go. Do you pronounce it that way, Phong?
Yep, perfect. It's a
Okay. Great. All right. And, lots of times right on the front end, I like everybody to kind of locate where their questions button is in GoToWebinar. And if you could let us know that you can hear us and maybe let us know where you're signing in from. It's always good to see where people are coming from. And I also want to make sure that you're hearing us because that's pretty important. Okay, I'm seeing somebody from Bloomington, Indiana. He's quick on the keyboard. Thanks, Fred, for letting us know. And are you able to hear us okay? Must be if he knows how to answer the question, right? Today, of course, our topic, and I'm going to keep my eye on where people are signing in from, is waving goodbye to detailed manual entry. And I should have put a poll out there about, how many people love just putting in bill after bill after bill with line after line after line and, putting in the job that it goes to and the specific item, et cetera, et cetera. And if I had a poll out there, I'm going to guess that it would be somewhere in the 0 range. But I did have somebody work for me for a while that did love doing data entry. So, there are a few people that kind of love that repetitive work, but a lot of people don't. And I'm also seeing people from Texas, Southern California. So welcome. We're going to have a good time today. We're going to be talking about a very special software, something that when I saw the things it could do, I was just pretty much blown away. I'm going, really? Can it really do this? And of course, we've been hearing so much about AI, and it seems like some of that AI could come in and help the people who are doing the data entry and so on do our jobs better. And MakersHub is going to be one of those things that will let us do that. Lots of times I'd like to just start out and talk about why are we teaming up today? Just talking about that first topic for accountants and bookkeepers, if you have to do a lot of detailed data entry, that's really tedious, it's time consuming, boring. Sometimes you can put some good music on in the background to make it chunk along a little bit faster, but it's just not a lot of fun. And the other thing is when you get into that kind of a situation, it is easy to make errors that make you look bad. Transpositions, grab the wrong job, etc. So then when somebody else goes to look at the report, then they're calling you on the carpet and going, what is this? No way did we spend that kind of money on that particular job. So I know it can be tough when you're having to do that type of work. Now, for company owners, you're depending on fast and accurate data and your management reports and the employee time that it takes to get that information in and make sure it's accurate is one of your really big investments. So from a financial perspective, you're spending lots of dollars in return for accurate and timely and what I call actionable information. Slow and erroneous and lagging data is going to mean you can't rely on getting up to the minute reliable decision-making information. And of course, that's what we need as owners. And gathering the right approvals. Maybe you have some things in place to make sure that the wrong things don't happen, the right things do, but that can take up even more time. It can slow up payments to your vendors. And of course, if you don't get those vendors paid on a timely basis, those vendors can either become difficult or they just go work for somebody else who can get them paid timely. Cash flow is very important to a lot of those contractors. Let's talk about who's going to be sharing information with you today. And I want to welcome Charley. Glad to have you here today. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you're going to bring good information to folks?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for inviting us today and giving us this audience to talk about what we're working on, Diane. So my name is Charley Howe. Before founding MakersHub with Phong several years ago, I spent 18 years in the financial services at Citibank predominantly, where I spent a lot of time in various parts of the bank, but a lot of experience in the payments infrastructure and kind of fintech elements of what are the pieces of technology that are emerging that'll allow kind of the more bedrock elements of financial services to go forward. And in the capacity that we'll talk about today, that's really how do we allow payments infrastructure to travel faster and to work more optimally for the folks like people on the phone today, who are the ones who need to have external money traveling quickly. And Phong brings there a tremendous amount of manufacturing and operational expertise that you can talk about here in a moment. But the partnership is a great one and has led us to what you all are about to see.
Terrific. And I hadn't spent that much time looking at your banking background, but I spent 13 years in banking myself. So we have some commonalities there, Charley.
Congratulations on.
And Phong, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got into this whole arena of data entry?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Diane, and great to kind of bring us all together today. So my name is Phong, and I'm the co-founder with Charley in building MakersHub. So before building MakersHub, I used to run an equipment manufacturing companies in Tucson, Arizona. We build advanced production facilities for OEM across automotive, aerospace, semiconductor displays. So we build machines that produce airplane windows on Dreamliners. We build machines that make iPhone glass, those type of things. So my background entirely on the engineering and manufacturing side. But starting out as an engineer, I ultimately grow to eventually run the business. And in that grow where, even though we was a very strong engineering and operation companies, the back office had always kind of bogged us down. And what does that mean? For us, building all the large equipment, it's very important for us to really know what the cost was. And not only the total cost, but we need to really understand the makeup, all these components and all these components that ultimately go into the machine. And if we don't know our cost, it's very hard to do estimate. It's really hard to do bid and job costing in real time. And our challenge has always been that the accounting team, we have thousands of bills coming in monthly, and it's a very tremendous task for the accounting team to keep up. Mistake were made, the team could get overwhelmed with the amount, and it become very unsustainable for us. And I didn't feel a lot of these things until I actually go into and do some of the job myself. And the data that I needed to run the business was so critical, but so painful to do with the thing that we missed. And that was ultimately the inspiration that led me to meet with Charley, discuss like the pain point. We spent a tremendous amount of time looking at different solutions out there, trying them all out. Nothing really worked for the company that I was running. And, it's really something that we very passionate about solving for small, medium-sized business to really kind of leverage their operations.
So you guys built this yourself to solve your own problem, right?
Entirely. Yep. We understand the pain point really well, and we're very passionately about solving this problem for ourselves and all the people that look like us.
Yeah, that's great. And there are a lot of people like that out there, and particularly in construction and manufacturing. Of course, you can apply job costing to service industries as well, but all that detail for equipment and for jobs is so applicable to construction and manufacturing both. And in manufacturing, I think maybe even a little bit more so than construction, just depending upon how complex your operations are. And it sounds like yours were pretty complex, Phong.
Yeah, we built some very large equipment. Somehow machine got 10,000 parts, so it's a lot to keep up.
Woo!
We wasn't keeping up, so to be honest.
Well, I'll go ahead and pull my bio up here. A lot of you already know me because you've been in other sessions with me, but just as a recap for anybody who doesn't, I'm a consultant, a trainer, speaker, author, and I've developed some extra products that work hand in hand with QuickBooks Desktop. And I have a pretty extensive accounting background between public accounting, banking, and started InfoPlus in 1994. So we're entering our 29th year this year. And I have spent, I said 25 plus years, of course, working with accounting owners and their staff to set up the right structure, particularly in QuickBooks Desktop, but of course there are other tools that get pulled in along with that. And I've earned some certifications and awards over the years. The one I'm most pleased about, of course, is being Pro Advisor of the Year. And of course, at that point, I get to claim that title on a lifetime basis. And I've also been named Top Niche Practice Pro Advisor and etc. You guys can read the rest of that. So let's move on to the MakersHub demo, because this is what you guys are here for. And what I'm going to do is I'll change the presenter to Phong. He's going to pull this up on his desktop. And I have asked them, Charley and Phong, to go through this fairly slowly because it's so cool and I get excited about it. And I go, well, you got to give people a chance to kind of absorb things as they go along. So are you guys able to see? I think you're seeing now Phong's desktop, and I'm going to turn my camera off. You guys don't need to watch me at this point. So I'm going to turn my camera off and turn everything over to Phong and Charley.
Great. Thank you, Diane. And so as Diane mentioned, we'll try to go through this at a fairly high level and fairly slowly. We do understand that some of this is very, very detailed and granular and perhaps abstract, seeing it for the first time. So anyone who's interested to learn more after the webinar, we're thrilled to connect directly and spend more time on any kind of specific elements of what you'll see. But for the next 20, 30 minutes, we'll go through this at a high level just to introduce kind of the power of the technology that we have and what it can do and how it can theoretically apply to your business. But to zoom out and just take a quick step back, who are we and what are we trying to solve? Who are we trying to serve? First of all, at a very high level, we are a full service accounts payable tool that can help with all elements of bill processing, bill approval, payment authorization, and the actual payments to your vendors. And this is both in Phong's experience, my experience, and not to be presumptuous, but likely many of the experiences of the folks on the phone, one of the most hated tasks of running a business. There's nothing fun about having to pay your bills, and that's compounded and made more acute by the fact that it's very, very hard if you're getting a high volume of bills, but not just a high volume of bills where the only task is paying those bills. Our users, or the people that we give the most amount of leverage to, are people that when they get a bill from a vendor, have a series of jobs to be done. Those jobs can include, number one, I need to validate that this bill is accurate. And typically, there's more than one person at the organization who needs to participate in that validation. Is this what we ordered? Is it what we received? Did we receive it in full? Etc. And then after answering those questions with the group of people who need to render those opinions, we need to extract all of the information from these bills, or we want to, because we can use it or need to use it for the sorts of things that Diane spoke about earlier. This is how we do our proper job costing. This is how we understand the source of truth about our costs. This is the data that we use as the basis for estimating future work, etc. So for many businesses, extracting vendor bill data at a line item level is an operationally critical task. And it's really hard, right? It's very manually intensive. And there aren't tools previous to MakersHub that really made that process more automated and more enjoyable, if you'll forgive me in using that term. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is a summary dashboard of a user who has bills and receipts in the system waiting their review, and payables. So a payable is, to quickly define these, bills are invoices that you've received from your vendors that need to be paid. Receipts are the actual economic record of something that has already been paid. I went to Home Depot, bought something with a credit card. I want that economic record to get into QuickBooks, but I don't want, obviously, to have any kind of duplicate payment take place. And then a account payable is a bill that has been through the approval process that you'll see here in a moment and now needs to be paid. And when we go in to actually review the bills that are in the system, these bills can get to the mailbox of our user, if you will, in a number of ways. You can drag and drop any kind of file type in here, but more commonly, all of our users or most of our users operate on an email basis. So either they have an existing AP inbox set up that we just set up forwarding rule out of, or people can just forward emails to dedicated email addresses that we give you when you start as a new user of MakersHub, and we'll recognize from whom this email is coming and route it appropriately. So if we go back to the financial tab here, where these bills that we've just processed live for you are sitting awaiting your review, we'll spend some time looking at the interface and just demonstrating the power of our system's ability to read and contextualize all of the information on your vendor bills. And so I'll try to go through this kind of slowly and point to you where we're looking. Feel free to ask questions as we go. I can't see the questions right in front of me, but Diane, perhaps you can help just kind of moderate the questions if they come through. We're happy to take them as we go.
I'm keeping an eye open.
Thank you. Okay. So this is the main review interface that our users operate in. And as you can see, on the left-hand panel is a pictorial of the bill itself. And then on the right-hand side is our system's ability to basically extract all of the information from that bill on the left and to give it structure and context. And so at this stage, you have connected to QuickBooks, a process that takes about 5-10 minutes on QuickBooks Desktop. It's instantaneous in QuickBooks Online. And when we do that connection, we ingest all of your vendor information, all of your chart of account information, all of your item information, all of your customer and job information, and which allows the system to make flexible reference to it. And what I mean by that is if you look at the upper left-hand corner of the right-hand panel, you'll see that we've read this vendor as Belimo R, which is how it's written if you're actually reading quite literally from the page, that tiny little R. And we say that, hey, you don't have a vendor in your vendor list called Belimo R. So one of two things is true. Either this is a genuine de novo new vendor and you've never set that record up in QuickBooks, which you can do here with a single click by saying create a new vendor. We'll create that vendor record for you in QuickBooks. Or we say you very likely are referring to a vendor that you do have called Belimo, and we can say with a high degree of confidence this is what you need. And when you click that and say, yes, this is actually the vendor that I want this bill to be married to, the system remembers that. And so there's a lot of self-learning built into this system that by virtue of the actions that you take in your bill review process, you teach the system how to get smarter. You teach the system how to operate with at or near 100% accuracy for your specific details. And moving on from the vendor piece, on the right-hand side are all of the bill details. So we've pulled the invoice number, the due date, the terms that are available, any net term that is available. This example doesn't have a net term, but if this were a scenario where your vendor offers you, your standard term is net 30, but if you pay in net 10, you get a 2% discount, we will extract that and allow you to flexibly capture those terms, which you'll see a little bit later in the demo. And the due date and the PO number. And using that PO number, we're able to go and basically perform a search, if you will, through your customer and job list and look for customer and job numbering conventions that are close to this PO number and serve them up to you as options for the customer or job that this bill might be for. And if the job or if the bill is for, in this case, Scalise Industries, with a single click, you can apply that customer to all of the line items on this bill. Now, as you can see, all of the line items have been extracted for you here. All of the quantity, price, total information is here, but any of these are editable. So in a scenario where, hey, I bought 10 things from Belimo, 9 were for this Scalise job, but I had to throw in one other thing for a different job, very easy for you to go in and individually edit any of these fields. And you can do that. Again, we're going to serve the drop-down menu as your customer and job list exists in QuickBooks. So none of this requires any kind of re-architecture of your setup in MakersHub. We're just going to basically pull from QuickBooks. And any change that you make in QuickBooks, we're going to recognize and automatically update. So you can see that on the left-hand side, there's a series of item numbers. This is an example of where our document reading technology is very, very powerful. if you look at the first line item itself on this Belimo bill, this mess of text is very, very hard to reconcile, right? Which of this is an item number, which is a description, etc. And this, without going into a ton of unnecessary kind of nerdy detail, is where the technological progression of AI capabilities is something that we leverage a lot. And we're able to use the power of those language models to help us suss out what in this massive text is what. And in this case, this is an item, and that green check mark says this is an item that exists in QuickBooks already. This is a known and created item. A few down, you'll see this yellow shopping bag icon. And this says this is also an item, but this is not an item that you have set up in QuickBooks. And from here, you can, on a rule-driven basis, instruct the system as to what you want us to do when you encounter things like new items. And before we go into this integration mapping tool that the cursor is hovering over, I'll just point out that you can also see that the class, the accounting class, is precast here. And the way that we do that and the way that we assign all of these items into their proper place in the accounting system is using that integration mapping tool. And Phong, I'll let you talk through this.
Yeah, so before we go further, so one of the biggest challenges that we used to run into a lot in my company was, it's often not always the same person doing the data entry for the bills. And so it's very important for the book is that things always go to the right place. For example, like when you have a new item, when you create a new item in QuickBooks, it requires you to assign the correct chart account, what expense account does it go to, what income account does it go to, and whether it's a sub item of something else, and is it inventory, non-inventory, same thing with class. And when we start having a lot of people involved, that process becomes very hard to keep up. And ultimately, that causes a lot of confusion in the book, make the book hard to reconcile. And so instead of relying on human knowledge to making sure things routed to all the right place, what we do at MakersHub, we build our integration mapping dashboard, which is a very simple line-by-line rule-based system that really allow you to design and teach the system where things should go in your accounting. And it can be applied as simple or as complex as your business need. And we're going to start from the top tab is, in QuickBooks Desktop, when we enter a bill, there's going to be an expense column and expense tab and an items tab. So what this allows us to do is for you to tell the system how and where to allocate the item. And you can read the rules as it's written in English, as if like basically the way we have it set up here is that you can set up rules based on vendor name, based on item number, based on item description, and a PO number, right? And so this rule what I say is, hey, if a bill come in from Cooper, make all the line item an expense. I don't want to track line item. If it coming from Sky Electric or Home Depot's, then assign it to miscellaneous hardware, which is an item that I already created. If it was sales tax or shipping, put into the sales tax and shipping item that I have created that allow the company to track where things should go and things like that, right? And what that does is allow the system to automatically route all those things to the right place, and you don't have to remember where things should go. Now, as Charley mentioned earlier, that we have a majority of the line item already set up in QuickBooks with the green check mark that we just saw. However, this B220HT is a new item. What you really want the system to be able to do is automatically create it for you, right? So that you don't have to do it yourself. So in integration mapping, you now can go to the charter account, and under item, you can set up the rule-based system to really set up where things should go. So what this rule say, what we're looking at is that, hey, for every new item that I encounter, put in cost of goods sold expense account. In the same way that we have kind of ingested all your vendor or your item, we also serve up all the chart account you already set up, so you can change anything you want. Assign it to construction income account, and then mark them as a sub item of miscellaneous hardware. And then unless if it comes from Belimo, which is the vendor that we're looking at right now, I actually really want it to become an inventory. So I can now set up a rules where, hey, create a new item for me, put it under construction material cost with an income account 42600, the inventory asset account, and put in HVAC controller, right? And what this does is now you no longer have to remember where things should go. We would automatically create a new item for you and so on. We can do the same thing across chart account. What you saw earlier, where we're able to automatically assign an accounting class and whether the bill is billable or non-billable under this accounting class rules as well.
I'm going to jump in for 1 second because I've worked behind many, many people in their books when they bring us information. And getting items set up in the right way is one of the really biggest error-prone areas that I see, because lots of times people don't totally understand items or how they interact with different accounts, and somebody's in a hurry and they just throw something new in the system and they don't pick out the right account. So you were exactly right when you said it's different people. You get somebody new in and they don't know all the nuances, or even somebody who's been there for a while and they're just in a hurry and they don't take the time to set things up properly. It is a big issue, and if you guys are solving for that, that's huge.
Exactly. And then another issue that you come into is that, this integration mapping ultimately become the company domain knowledge, so that when people leave or when new people are coming in, you no longer have transition period where you have to teach and train people. This is going to be your source of truth, and people can look into it, refer to it, and really get their hand around where things should go. Right?
And with everything going on in the labor market, there is turnover going on out there, more so than ever before, I think. So that continuity is a big deal.
Exactly.
For anybody who runs an item-driven business and has lived this, this is probably a very visceral for you. But there's a ton of businesses who say this, this looks cool, this sounds cool, but it's not relevant to me. There's a bunch of other elements of our ability to read and contextualize data that are very advantageous for almost any business. And a big one is around approvals. How do we basically take a bill that we received and validate that it's correct? And how do we do that in an efficient way when there are a number of people at the organization who we either demand or optimally would like to participate in that process? And the value of being able to extract all of the data from the bill and give it context is that based on that context, things like what vendor is this from? What does the description say? What is it? What is on this bill? And any other attribute that we can read, we can, using that same kind of rule-driven smart routing approach, allow our users to design the routing for the approval process. And so in much the same way that you would set up the instructions for the system as to where items and expenses should go into the accounting system, you can set up an approval workflow that says, hey, based upon the facts and circumstances of the bill that you can read, this person or this set of people need to participate in the approval process. And so what you're looking at on the screen is, again, that same kind of very simple sequential rule-driven system that says, hey, if I encounter a bill where the total is greater than 0, send it to Chris Pepper, the office manager. Unless the bill has a total greater than 1,000, then send it to Chris and the AP department. The AP department is a group of people. So basically, once you add all of the users that you want to be on the platform, which is no additional cost, there's no per user seat license, anything like that. You can have as many people as you want. You can say, hey, I want these 5 people to be the AP department, and any person who is a member of this group can take an action on behalf of the group. But it's not just total. We can do this by item description, we can do it by accounting class, customer, etc. And this, again, I don't want to spend too much time on it unless it's very relevant to a lot of people on the phone, and we can do a follow-up. But this can be very sophisticated, or it can be designed to be very sophisticated. And the use case that we see most commonly is basically a conditional routing, where the workflow inside the company is a bill comes in, somebody in the AP department looks at it, applies a code. either a customer code or an accounting class code or something of that nature. And depending upon what code was assigned, a different set of people need to be the ones to approve this bill. And that's what you're looking at here on the bottom line in the blue hue, which is saying conditionally. So when a customer that includes ABC School District is assigned to the bill, then route it to this group of project managers. So we don't need to go into that in a tremendous amount of detail. The takeaway is really this can marry and match approval processes that exist in your companies that are very, very complicated and previously haven't been supported well by legacy platforms in the AP space. So let's assume that we've looked at the bill, we've validated that all of the accounting coding is correct, and now it's gone through the approval process. There can be a number of people who participated in that. You can bring people in. One element of the approval process that we'll probably touch on is that you can bring people into this conversation who maybe have the necessary information that you don't. It's going to be very flexible. You just add in somebody from your organization. They're going to get an email notification. You can add documents, support documents to this. So let's say somebody has a packing slip or a lien waiver or something of that nature that's going to be beneficial to other people who are looking at this for an approval perspective. All of this is captured here, time-stamped. The documents themselves are referenceable by anybody else who is taking part in the approval process. But let's assume now we've gone through this process, everything looks good. It's a single click to approve this bill, and we're going to auto load the next one in the queue for you. And when this is approved, that is the first time that we'll take an action in QuickBooks. And when the bill is approved in MakersHub, we're going to create a bill record in QuickBooks that we'll show you in a minute. But we'll approve a couple bills here just so you can see that basically any type of file format, any type of invoice format, be it handwritten, be it kind of a mess, we're able to read and reconcile.
I want to add a couple additional note is that, so what we have seen so far a bill that was individually, meaning a single PDF or for a single bill. But very often, especially in construction and manufacturing, you would receive a bill that we designated at an invoice group here when we read them, is that it's not really a single bill in one PDF, but many AR systems will send you a single PDF that include 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bills in this kind of single document. And this often causes a lot of issue with errors, like when you going really fast, typing this thing in, you can miss the page. So you can see that MakersHub not only be able to read the bill itself by individually, we can also extract a document and recognize that, hey, this actually 6 bill combined into a single PDF document. We'll be able to serve that up to you, showing you that being, extracted properly. And when you do a review, we automatically bring it to the right page on that document that reference the bill itself, right? And the idea is that it's gonna, significantly eliminate and capture a lot of use cases for the companies. So we're gonna approve a few of these as well, just so you can see the capability.
I'm seeing a question out here. So it says, does MakersHub integrate with Accounting Suite?
That's funny. Today we do not. Today we are books exclusively, but all forms of QuickBooks. And that's a deliberate choice at our stage that we can talk more about. But today we do not have an Accounting Suite integration.
Okay, and I do have one other question. Can you open the bill and the packing list side by side for comparison purposes?
Yes. So you end up attaching the support document. So let's say I'm going to attach, it won't be the right one, but I'm going to attach some sort of like packing slip into the support document, right? So once you add it, the attached document going to be right here for you. So you can actually pop them up open and you can review them alongside with the document itself. So any additional document that you added going to be all showed up. You can add multiple support documents. You can put note or change order, anything else that you really wanted, And the idea is, and you will see this once we push all the information into QuickBooks, is not only that we capture and link them all on MakersHub side, we really spend a lot of effort on pushing all the information to QuickBooks as well. So you're no longer going to have to chase around looking for bills or finding document or downloading and rearrange them in Dropbox. They're going to be all organized together, linked to your bills.
So let's show you that in QuickBooks, and then we'll spend the last kind of 5-10 minutes of the demo walking through the payments pieces.
Yep.
But very quickly.
So far, what we did is we approved 5 or 6 bills that they got moved from bill to account payable on the MakersHub side. On QuickBooks, we're gonna leave this bill tracker window up so you can see that we did not kind of pre-type these things in. So we use the web connector, which most of you probably already familiar with, in order to communicate between QuickBooks Desktop and MakersHub. And most often we set these web connector up to run, in the background where it automatically sync. But for this demo, we're gonna sync them live so you can see the bill get populate in QuickBooks Desktop in real time. Give it a few seconds here, so we'll see information start. So you see the Belimo bill come through, the Air bill come through.
My COO calls this magic happens here.
Exactly. And what you will see, we're going to look at the Belimo bill, which we end up having to create a new line item that we looked at earlier, right? So we're going to open this Belimo bill so you can see what it looked like. So you can see this one line item B22H T731. It got created automatically. It got put under HVAC controller. And if you look at this item specifically, you're going to be able to see that set up to all the right expense account, income account, without you having to do any additional work, right?
And beyond that, obviously, to state the obvious, all of the line item information is captured here, coded appropriately, class, job, etc. On the memo line, we give you basically an audit trail of anything that took place such that this record exists in QuickBooks now. So this bill was processed by MakersHub. It was fully approved on this date at this time by these people. It was really uploaded by Mitchell Clark. It was approved by the AP department and this person in the AP department, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very easy to reconcile why is this here. Furthermore, we give you a unique link in this bill record and document record to the original version of the bill. So you can just put this unique link into any web browser and you can reference the original bill. So you don't need to keep this in any kind of document vault or physical storage or anything like that. It's going to live next to or attached to its bill record in QuickBooks. If you went through the process of updating that packing slip or uploading a lien waiver, that sort of thing, that's going to show up in a line item beneath it, that document record. So all of these records are going to live together. These links, a common question that we get, regardless of whether or not you leave MakersHub or MakersHub goes away entirely, these are unique links that are hosted on AWS. So as long as Amazon is around, these links will be around as well. So this is what gets done in QuickBooks, and we can now go back to the MakersHub side unless there's something else that you want to point out here, Phong.
No, that's it. And then we can go over the bill payment process.
Okay, let's do that. And then I'm seeing some questions out here. So let's go through the bill payment process so we're sure everybody sees that. And then we're going to jump back over into the questions.
You want to tackle this?
Yep. So regarding bill payment, so as you can see, MakersHub, we basically try to enable user to allow them to do what they do today without, less manual entries. So far, what you have seen, we were able to push and auto create all the manual data entry. We have two type of user. One was that they have a proper functioning check cutting system in QuickBooks. So once you already approve and the bill's into QuickBooks, you can continue using your existing system. So for the purpose of this demo, we're going to show that, let's say bill already go into your system. Pittsburgh Air, you're going to pay the bill, cut the check for it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the check to pay this bill in QuickBooks. When you pay the bill in QuickBooks, MakersHub, we are a two-way integrated system. We're going to be able to recognize that the bill already been paid, and we're going to move them out of the payable and move them into the archive. You're never gonna be in the situation where you have to go back and forth and manually marking as pay on MakersHub side. You can see here, after I pay the bill in the Pittsburgh Air bill, if I hit the refresh button on MakersHub, you will see that it got moved out of account payable. It got moved into archive. You can see we mark them as pay. You can view it. We're going to note that payment had been made externally, meaning we know they've been paid in QuickBooks. We move it here. We change their status, and you don't have to do anything duplicatively. However, MakersHub, we're not only stopping at the data entry process, but we are fully integrated payment system where from here, where you have, all the bill from all your vendor, and now you really want to pay them, right? And so all the bill, you see who approved them, when the invoice date was, what the due date is, and you can select these bill to schedule the payment. So a couple of things to point out here is that by default, we actually would know that bill coming from the same vendor so that we're going to be able to combine them together into a single transaction that you can see. We also have our user who wanted to actually pay individual bill by individual checks. And instead of having to do that manually, you can do a single click calling schedule payment individually. We automatically split the payment so that individual bill get paid by single payment, make it easy for the vendor to reconcile. And one last thing to point out is we didn't just stop at reading and data entry. As Charlie mentioned earlier, we actually read the net term as being written inside the bill, and we're gonna understand it, and we're gonna make it very easy for the company to capture the discount. These are the kind of things that often get missed. So for example, this bill, it have a 10% discount if you pay in 10 days. In order to capture this, you have to calculate what the discount was. You gotta create a line item to change that discount. With MakersHub, we read it, we understand it, and we would tell you when the discount is gonna be active until we automatically calculate what the discount is. And all you need to do is hit apply. We automatically apply the discount, we change the open balance, we change the due date, and we allow you to process with a single click. And from here, you can see, you can select what account it should be paying from, how you want to pay your vendor. They have multiple methods. You can see from here, we have a couple of transactions that go now at ACH, some that go now at physical checks. Both ACH and checks are operate where we cut, print, and mail the check on the same day you want to schedule payment, so no payment delay. Your vendor will get remittance detail, and you can schedule future payment as well. So we automatically allow you to schedule payment exactly on the due date. You can change the date or schedule them however you would like. And once you decide how you want to pay the vendor and when you want to pay the vendor, all you need to do is hit schedule payment. And all the record going to be moving our account payable. They go into the payment tab, and then they're ready to be paid.
Now, I'm going to jump in with a question. So if we paid 3 bills here through MakersHub, through ACH, or even check,
yep.
What's the charge for the ACH transfer from using MakersHub?
ACH and checks are included in the subscription, so we do not charge additional charge for per user or per transfer. All payment are integrated, and that's part of your subscription.
Oh, that's a huge advantage, because in many cases, the vendor would have to pay a fee, or you would have to pay a fee to handle that. And what's the normal time lag between authorizing an ACH and a vendor receiving the funds?
Yeah, so that probably one of the biggest advantage that MakersHub bring to ecosystem is because we have the most technological connection to our charter bank partner. So ACH transfer, if you authorize a payment before 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, the payment will arrive to the vendor on the same day.
Wow, same day. That's
exactly. Yep.
Great.
And you do after the window, then they would receive payment at 8:30 tomorrow morning. If you submit payment, like let's say you do it at 5 p.m. Eastern time, then they will receive at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Checks are the same thing. If you submit the check payment before 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, then check will get printed and mailed on the same day, otherwise within 24 hours.
Thank you.
One other thing to add, and then I saw the questions that you referenced, Diane. I answered them in the chat, but I can just kind of quickly go through them. So in the same way that you can design an approval matrix for the bill, validating that the bill itself is good, we treat the consideration of when a payment should go out and who can authorize a payment as a separate question. So those are two discrete questions and should have two discrete workflows. The user can decide and can say, hey, for our organization, this is the same. And the way that we've designed the bill approval, we want to apply to payment authorization, but you don't have to. And many people find that very valuable. And in our mind, it's an important part of a hygienic AP process, that answering the question, is this bill valid? And the question of, do I authorize a payment, how and when, are two separate questions. And so those two things can be designed discretely in MakersHub. There are a couple other questions that people answered or asked in the chat. One, David asked if with QBO, does it handle all of the syncing that you saw in the background automatically? Yes, it does. What you saw, the web connector is unique to QuickBooks Desktop because it's on-premise software. If we were doing this in QBO, all of this would just happen automatically. Does the application only push data to QuickBooks, or does it also retrieve data from QuickBooks? Also, it does. It's a full two-way sync. So any update that you make in QuickBooks, as you saw, Phong paid the bill out of QuickBooks, or if you were to add a new customer or take some other kind of action in QuickBooks, we're going to recognize and retrieve that as well. It's a true two-way sync. There was a question about document storage. How are documents stored in MakersHub, and can you download them at any point? Yes, you absolutely can. So all of your information is archived here, and there are two little icons you can see there, a calculator icon. This allows you to export all of it to an Excel file, or you can download all of the actual PDF documents themselves into a zip file at any point. And then lastly, there was a question from Kim. If a class or job changes from bill to bill, can that be overridden once, or must you adjust the item each time? Yes, you can make any kind of individual override that you want. If you had applied a rule, and many people do this, many people say, hey, 90% of the time, this is the way that I want this captured, but there's going to be 1 out of 10 times where it's different. Very easy to just go in and one-off change this. You can also, depending upon the specific use case that you're talking about, we can help you design rules that basically capture the nuance as well. But any of this is individually editable at any point.
Okay, it looks like you've taken care of most of the questions that are in the questions pane, and I'm sure that if people get to do a one-to-one conversation with you guys later, that they'll have more specific questions that relate to their particular company. But I am going to grab the screen back so that we can get our prize given out. You guys have a very nice prize. Great demo, by the way, you guys. And I appreciated you going through it at that pace. It was more clear to me even because I've seen a couple demos, and seeing it at this pace was really helpful for me. So our giveaway result, now we have our COO hops in, and ahead of time we said it's going to be from the screen that she looks at, it's going to be participant number 11. And Charlie, what is participant number 11 going to get from MakersHub?
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining. We're going to send participant number 11 a $100 Amazon gift card. We appreciate all of your attendance and participation, a lot of great questions. And so thanks very much. We'll get your contact information, whomever the lucky winner is, from Diane and team.
Let's name it. Laura, my COO, is out here. She's going to tell us who it is.
Hi, Diane. And the winner of the prize is Michael Waterfield.
Okay, Michael. I'm sure you'll be able to find something fun to do with that Amazon gift certificate coming up with the holidays and so on. You can probably just have a nice dinner out somewhere or do something special for somebody. So thanks for being here with us. Now, I have a few questions here. I'm going to run through very quickly on these slides that you guys are going to get. Of course, you're all going to get a copy of the actual recording as well as these slides. And industries are an ideal fit for MakersHub. We've already talked about that. Probably construction, manufacturing are top of the list, but any company that has a lot of that type of detail that they need to get entered, and limited bandwidth in terms of employees, I imagine that could really make a big difference. Do you see any big differences in the functionality between QuickBooks Desktop and QBO in terms of what you can do with MakersHub?
No, from like limitation goes, it's actually really so much more on like reporting, like QBOs or inventory control QBOs are still lacking against QuickBooks Desktop. But from an integration perspective, and this is one of the main reasons why we still staying very narrow. We do a very deep integration on both desktop and online that really for our user, especially if you're servicing multiple companies, the capability going to remain exactly the same. The only one anecdote to point out is QuickBooks Online, the projects and customer a little bit differently than in desktop where everything account at a customer, but we're able to handle that as well. But there's some nuance around job costing and project tracking difference between the two.
Okay, thank you. We did take care of the transaction fees, but the question before that is how long does it usually take somebody who's new to get up and customized, up and running, and having things running smoothly?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the biggest thing that we really take great pride of is very minimal learning curve for our customer. Charlie mentioned the integration process takes about 5 minutes for QuickBooks Desktop and near instant for QuickBooks Online. Once you integrate it, we already bring all the information in. You can just start drag and dropping bills. Usually our team, our onboard team would help our customer, spend 30 minutes with them. Once you integrate it, drag a few bills, process them, walk through how you think about where things should go, set a few rules up for you. And we have many customers, get up and going within hours.
Great. And in terms of support, if people have a question as they're moving forward?
Great. You will never talk to a computer or someone internationally. You will have our team, dedicated team here in the US. You will get to, most of the time, going to be Charlie and I responding to support ticket because we love our customer and we're still in the mode where we continue to iterate and improve the product. We love to help our customer.
Okay. And I know that the latest features you guys told me about were the payments, that you'd been really focusing on that for the last couple of months to make sure that was, the finishing touch or the frosting on the cake. And then where do you decide on new features that you're going to create and offer?
Yeah, I mean, we want to hear it from you. So all of, the vast majority of what you saw today happened certainly by virtue of Phong and my lived experience. But that was only the initial kernel. We've built things that our users say, hey, I love that this saves me X amount of time in the AP process, but could you also do this? And 9 times out of 10, those are wonderful suggestions that are not beneficial just to the person who's asking for them. They're beneficial to a wide swath of people who've got the same problem. And that's how we decide what to build. And we build it quickly, and it allows for a great experience for our users, but also a better platform for us.
And that's important for folks. And I know we've got like 1 minute left, so I'm going to speed through our last slide. First thing on the left is all about MakersHub. These, I would recommend that you guys go out and click through on these when you get the handout. Of course, you can download it right now from GoToWebinar, but you'll also get a copy tomorrow. And these 3 links, there's a couple customer stories and a TechCrunch article. I loved all of these. And of course, here is the contact information for MakersHub. Now, they offered, here's a big deal, okay, a year 1 25% discount. And I'll tell you what, their pricing is not outrageous at all compared to the cost of people time. But even then, they're going to give you a 25% discount for your first year if you say that you came in through this webinar. Of course, that's a limited time offer, so get on that right away. On the right side, you'll see the types of things that we offer. And again, I think most of you guys are familiar with us, but if any of these things strike your fancy, when you see this handout, you can click through on any of those links. So I think we did it. We might have 20 seconds left.
Diane, thank you so much for hosting us today. All of the participants on the phone, thank you very much. Your time is very valuable, and to spend an hour of it with us is greatly appreciated. if we can answer more questions or spend more time on things that either didn't make sense or detailed questions that were unique to you all, we're thrilled to do so. Just reach out to the email on the screen and we'll get it set up for you.
Thank you so much, both Charley and Phong. You guys did a great job, and I'm excited to have more and more people learn about this because I think it's just a terrific, terrific tool. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a great week.